Uh-huh. I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods. Yeah, one in particular, I'm just a messenger. Let me just pass on the rock. Browning, Brunning, Bruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box, and you cannot compare them at all. So don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, yeah. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, woo. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable Podcast. It's only Wednesday, but we are back a day early because we have some fun family obligations to end the week, and we did not want to miss out talking about just a banger of a week 8. There are six teams on a bye. There are a lot of matchups. There are a lot of matchups that are going to be having you wishing you were on a bye. But Dennis, one of the better ones is tomorrow night's game, the 3-3 Minnesota Vikings at the 4-3 Los Angeles Chargers. JJ McCarthy going to be the emergency quarterback. They've already announced Carson Wentz is starting. But what's perhaps more interesting is that Aaron Jones is listed as questionable. If he comes off the IR to play tomorrow night, is he in your lineup?
So at this point in the season, you have to weigh, like, what are your other options? Jordan Mason has been kind of meh after a big week 3. He hasn't seized. He didn't go Rico Dowdle on the job, and so that leaves the door open for Aaron Jones, and Carson Wentz will use a running back that can catch the ball. And if Jones is healthy, he's going to be fresh. He hasn't been taking hits for the last 4 or 5 weeks, and so while Mason is good, I think Jones still has a lot left in the tank. And if he plays, I think you can flex him as a low end flex with some upside. I would expect that they'll start with we're going to ease him in a little bit and see how he does. But we've watched Aaron Jones for a long time. It don't take much for him to get a hot hand.
Speaking of a hot hand, that's probably how you would describe Oronde Gadsden of late, really making an impact in this Chargers passing game. It is a little thin this week between injuries and bye weeks. Would you consider firing up Gadsden?
Well, he's tight end 7 on the season, and since he started playing in week 3. The dude's been on fire. He's carved out a significant role on a team that has some really, really good pass catchers. So, there's Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, who was just on absolute fire to start the year and still is playing very, very well. With their potential lack of a running game, I don't see how you could not. He's carved out a role in this offense. I like Oronde Gadsden. I picked him up in the Roundtable Listener League today. I bid $15, 15% on him. To be honest, I was frankly surprised nobody else bid.
Yeah.
I feel like I wasted $14, but honestly, I thought $15. I thought I'd get outbid.
Yeah, I think he's been good. I would potentially throw him out there. I am going to take the Chargers in this one.
So am I.
Next up, Sunday games. No early game this week. They will resume international games November 9th, so you have a couple of weeks off from the 6:30 a.m. Pacific start. Miami Dolphins 1-6 at the Atlanta Falcons 3-3, beginning the 1 p.m. Eastern games. Aside from Devon Achane, is there any Dolphin you're trusting? Darren Waller went back on IR Tua has been terrible. And the one thing you would say about the Falcons is they have a pretty good pass rush.
Yeah, you probably are going to start Waddle if you roster Waddle, but I mean, there's not really anything else there. It's a two-man offense. It's Waddle and it's Devon Achane. And Waddle is probably your wide receiver 3, hoping for some upside. I don't know. It's the team is not playing well. They're not healthy, and I forget whether it was front office or owner basically said, yeah, we're going to ride this out for a little bit. I think what he said is, look, I'm already paying this guy. We're not going to hire somebody new in the middle of the season. I mean, how much worse can it get? I think we're about to find out, but
definitely see. The Falcons, of course, a better home team we've mentioned. Michael Penix a lot better, a lot more dynamic stats wise at home. You're pretty excited about him this week, right? I mean, Dolphins not putting the fear in your defense.
Well, I mean, the Falcons are at home and the Dolphins suck. This is a classic 2025 Atlanta Falcons win. So, yes. The Falcons, with what they do on offense with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier and then Kyle Pitts, Drake London, I feel bad for Darnell Mooney because, last year I thought, he's going to be really good. He's got a great opportunity across from London. It didn't quite pan out, but he was still the other guy there this year, and they didn't really add anybody significant. So it was set up for a perfect Darnell Mooney deep threat, Drake London intermediate, Kyle Pitts short, and Mooney just hasn't been able to get it clicking, hasn't been able to stay healthy. So it's a very narrow funnel with Bijan doing his best, Christian McCaffrey, getting most of the carries and most of a lot of the receiving, but Algier still pops up, makes himself fantasy relevant on your bench every 2 or 3 weeks because it's hard to start him. But
he may not be a bad start this week though, because I could foresee some garbage time.
Yeah, this definitely feels like Tyler Algier garbage time hero.
That's the only thing that potentially worries me about Penix. Like, if the Browns put up 31 against the Dolphins, holy cow! I am taking the Falcons.
So am I.
The 0-7 New York Jets at the 3-4 Cincinnati Bengals. They officially confirmed Tyrod Taylor will start this week. What are you expecting from him?
Not much. I mean, is Garrett Wilson back?
So he is questionable. He did not practice, has a knee injury. Breece Hall also held out of practice with a knee injury. And in fact, Tyrod Taylor is listed as having a knee injury. I am not expecting big things from the Jets.
Ain't nobody got no knees in New York. So, no, he was 10 of 22 last week in relief for 126 yards.
And 2 interceptions.
I like the perseverance of Tyrod Taylor to stick in the NFL as long as he has, but I don't think he's the savior the New York Jets are looking for. And as much as I want to be on board with Justin Fields, I don't know whether it's coaching or his perpetual holding the ball too long, not being able to throw people open. He just hasn't been able to get it together in New York either.
No. He's probably entering the career backup phase now.
Yeah. It's worked out great for Marcus Mariota.
Meanwhile, Joe Flacco has been QB9 the last 2 weeks since joining the Bengals, and now he gets a woeful Jets defense. Top 12 this week, right?
I mean, he's got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins catching the ball against an awful Jets team.
With Gardner and Michael Carter, Gardner's coming off a concussion, may not be able to play, and Michael Carter's on the injury list too.
Yeah, it's going to be and even with that bad Cincinnati offensive line, Flacco is making the right decisions. He's not holding the ball. He's getting rid of the ball. And when you have T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, it's easy to have that confidence. But he's also taking shots with Noah Fant and taking shots with Andre Josevich. So he's getting the ball to people and he's doing it quickly, which is allowing Chase Brown to make stuff happen on the ground. He's starting to heat up a little bit too. Yeah. To me, this, as much as I want Justin Fields to be successful and the Jets to start winning, this is a Cincinnati Bengals victory for me.
Yeah, I took the Bengals too. The 2-5 Cleveland Browns at the 5-2 New England Patriots. Dennis, Jerry Jeudy is still the number one wide receiver for the Browns, but only wide receiver 57 on the season, averaging less than 7 points a game, even in a depleted week. How good are you feeling about Jeudy?
I mean, that reminds me of that summer when I was the skinniest kid at fat camp. So it's, I mean, the best receiver. I mean, the offensive line has a lot of injuries and hasn't played up to its potential. And well, I guess I don't have a ton of confidence that 5'10" Dylan Gabriel would be able to throw the ball over 6'9" DeJuan Jones anyways. Having Jones in there was definitely better than having this rotation of tackles they've had. Now, I mean, the offense is running through Quinshon Judkins and the tight ends right now, and it's quasi working, and they don't seem to be anywhere near making a change at quarterback. Gabriel's doing better than Flacco did there, which is saying something, I guess. But the offense just has to score enough points to keep the defense in it, and because the defense is playing great. Well, statistically, they're probably not as high, or they're definitely not as high again, like against the run specifically, or getting sacks specifically, as I thought when I went and looked at it. They're making stuff happen on defense, and the defense is playing really, really well. Jeudy, he's wide receiver 57. He's a low-end wide receiver 5 now. But in that wide receiver group, he has the most upside.
Meanwhile, Stephon Diggs and Kayshon Boutte putting it together. Diggs, wide receiver 26, Boutte, wide receiver 29. It's not a great matchup, but are you still feeling pretty good about rolling them both?
Yeah. Probably as flex plays, is, if I have to start them as wide receiver 2s, I do it with hesitation. But, if you have to start them as wide receiver 2s, it's obviously you don't have anybody else better. I would love to see Kayshon Boutte start to get 6 to 8 targets a game, because he's making stuff happen on limited targets. And when he gets a lot of targets, he's doing well. So, last week's 2 for 55 yards. Throw the ball to him more. You got Drake May who can throw the ball well. Let's narrow the funnel to Diggs, Boutte, and Hunter, and Ramondre Stevenson, because clearly they're not going to give Travion Henderson the ball. But if we know who's getting it, I get it. We all have our biases. We all have, I love Ohio State players. I want them to do great. But, man, I just want to know who's getting the ball on my fantasy teams and be able to count on some volume. So let's get Boutte 6 to 8 targets, Diggs 8 to 12 targets. Let's make some shit happen, Mike Vrabel.
I'm taking the Patriots.
So am I.
Next up, we have the 2-5 New York Giants at the 5-2 Philadelphia Eagles. Giants actually beat the Eagles in week 6. Tyrone Tracy's come back. I know you were very excited that he ran for a touchdown last week. I did not think he looked great. I
don't know if I'd call it excited. I was more excited about the size of the hole he had to run through.
A lot of people probably took Tracy thinking that they would need to play him. How are you feeling about him going into this game?
I mean, he's the change of pace back to Scadaboo. I mean, that's what Scadaboo's what RB8, I think, or something.
Yeah, RB8.
And so they like what Scadaboo is doing, and it pairs well with Jackson Dart's mobility. I'd love it if they could get Darius Slayton back, but Wan'Dale Robinson is playing really, really well. Jalen Hyatt flashes. Lil Jordan Humphrey has flashed a little bit, and Theo Johnson and Daniel Bellinger have both looked good at the tight end position. It's just sort of a situation where it's hard to count on anybody besides Scadaboo and Wan'Dale Robinson in that offense. But yeah, Tracy, I think he's the change of pace back. He's going to get 30% of the touches, 35%. But if Andrew Thomas is going to open up those big old holes like that, Tracy may be worth a flex.
Meanwhile, Saquon has been a little slower this year, but he's facing his former team. They finally got the pass offense going last week, which may loosen some of the coverage by the line. So you would like to be able to play Saquon Barkley because you would think going up against his former team would be pretty good. The first time that they played against them, only 8.7 PPR points, which was actually one of his lowest outputs of the season. Do you think Saquon can do better in game 2 against the Giants?
Well, I think he can do better. Will he do better? I don't know. He's RB 18 in points per game. And when they have the passing game blow up like it did last week, that obviously gives us hope. But Barkley, I think, is just carrying the weight of over 500 touches last year. The offensive line, while they've replaced some players with players that are good, they're just not as good as they were in the Kelsey years. They're not a top 5 kind of elite line. They're just a really good offensive line now. And it relies on Barkley to kind of do some stuff on his own, maybe a little more than he had to do in the first season or so he was there. But, RB 18 is a startable running back in fantasy. And we all know what the upside is.
I'm taking the Eagles this time.
I wish I had the balls to take the Giants, but I'm taking the Eagles too.
The 4-2 Buffalo Bills at the 4-3 Carolina Panthers. Dennis, Keon Coleman, probably the most explosive of the Bills wide receivers, had 25.2 points in that week 1 game against Baltimore. Only 32.5 points in the 5 games subsequent to that. Only wide receiver 46 on the season. How do you feel about him as a starting option?
Not great. I mean, since that week 1, he's wide receiver 60. So, and the hard thing is they don't have a narrow funnel in the pass game. The most reliable passing game weapon for the Buffalo Bills is Dalton Kincaid. After that, it's hit or miss every week, whether it's Khalil Shakir or sometimes Joshua Palmer or Keon Coleman. And it seems like there's somebody else there I'm missing. But
Josh Palmer, Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, and I think those are their only big wide receivers.
And then you've got James Cook in the run game, who is still very, very productive. So yeah, it's tough to, I would have to be in rough straits, I think, to start Keon Coleman this week.
Yeah. Meanwhile, it looks like Bryce Young is going to miss with the injury. So Andy Dalton probably coming out to start. Buffalo coming off a bye. Looks like they're going to get quite a few defenders back. How are you feeling about Andy Dalton?
So he's a 36 or 38-year-old veteran now. He's been a backup for several years. He's kind of that Joe Flacco guy. He's going to go in there and functionally do the right thing. Will he do it well enough against a Buffalo defense? Do you know if Matt Milano is still out?
Matt Milano looks like he's going to be back.
So when you do that, and I know they were down
like Taylor Rapp, Daquan Jones, Terrell Bernard, Matt Milano, and the rookie Maxwell Harrison are all tracking toward being back.
That ain't good for Andy Dalton.
No.
But they've got Tet, Leggett, and Coker's coming back this week, so there is some weapons in the passing game. And even though Jatavian Sanders has been out, they've been making use of Mitchell Evans and who's the other guy? They ain't Ian Thomas anymore. Tommy Tremble. At the tight end position to keep defenses honest. And we saw when Hubbard went out, Rico Dowdle blew up. So they've got a strong running game. I think it feels like a game where the Panthers can hang a little bit, but ultimately Buffalo's overall talent and the weight of Josh Allen's being a premier quarterback will lead the Bills to a win.
Yeah, I'm taking the Bills too. I don't think they lose 3 in a row, especially coming out of a bye. The 4-2 Chicago Bears at the 1-5 Baltimore Ravens. Ravens also coming off of a bye. Dennis, Caleb Williams, QB 14 on the season. Not particularly great last week, even though they got the victory. How are you feeling about him this week?
Last week was tough. He's got a couple 24-plus point weeks, 19.9 point, 18-point week. I'd like to see him consistently be in that 24-plus. So I'm kind of waiting. He's got good weapons, DJ Moore, Luther Burden, Rome Odunze, DeAndre Swift, Cole Kmet, Colson Loveland, and then the rookie Kyle Manon guys coming on. The offensive line is starting to gel a little bit, but it can be up and down. And there are times when Caleb still tries to do too much, and that gets him into trouble a little bit. But the Bears offense is scoring the 10th most points in the NFL, points per game in the NFL. So they can put up some offense. And the Baltimore Ravens defense is bad. And
so I do have a question about that because they're coming off their bye. Kyle Hamilton and Lamar Jackson back practicing. Looks like they're trending towards playing. They had a week off to fix some things. Preseason, Baltimore was a very trendy Super Bowl contender. I don't think they're totally out of it because their division's not incredible. Couldn't this be the path to coming? I mean, Chicago barely eclipsed the Las Vegas Raiders in their game with Geno throwing the ball to everyone but anyone on his own team. They barely eclipsed and probably should have lost to the Commanders. Last week they did okay against the Saints. I don't think the Bears are incredible.
Well, but you know what good teams do, Matt? Good teams win close games. Now, bad teams make easy games close. So there's also that side of the coin. Could the Ravens defense come together? Sure, it could. But they weren't great in the early part of the season when they were healthy either. So I don't know that I have a ton of confidence they're just going to flip a switch and all of a sudden, be back to the Ray Lewis Ravens. I don't know. They're in a situation where the game should be set up good for Derrick Henry. The Bears can be run on. They give up 5.3 yards per carry. Henry is a pounder. This should be one of his 20-plus carry games where he grinds them down, eats up a lot of clock. But I'm going to go Bears. I'm drinking the Ben Johnson Kool-Aid.
I'm taking the Ravens. I think sadly their bounce back begins. The 5-2 San Francisco 49ers at the 2-4 Houston Texans. Dennis, Brock Purdy back, still practicing in limited, has a chance to start. If he goes, how good would you feel about him?
Well, Shanahan said on Monday he was a long shot to play. So I'm not necessarily expecting him to play. I think if you roster him and he starts, you're going to start him. Kittle's back, which is great. Juwan Jennings seems to be starting to get healthy. Maybe Ricky Pearsall will eventually show up again. And then they got Christian McCaffrey. So there is some weapons there. And Purdy knows what to do in that offense. Him and Mac Jones are almost clones of each other. And they both play that offense very, very well.
Nico Collins, probably the best receiving option for the Texans. Wide receiver 33 so far on the year, kind of square between a couple guys that have underwhelmed us, and Brian Thomas Jr. at 32 and Marvin Harrison Jr. at 34. How are you feeling about Nico Collins?
Man, I love the talent. Love it.
Top 12 talent, bottom third offense.
It's tough. The offense is so out of sync. It's not even funny. They don't have any running game at all. And even when Nick Chubb is getting 5 or 6 yards a carry, he's only getting 8 or 10 carries a game, which is not enough to make a difference, I think, in the overall scheme of the offense. The offensive line is just so bad. CJ Stroud was under so much pressure last week. It wasn't even funny. They can't protect. And even with Nick Bosa out, I feel like Stroud is still going to be under a ton of pressure from that 49ers defense.
I mean, even missing all the pieces, they were collapsing Atlanta on Monday night. I think Atlanta has both a better line and a better offense. I'm taking the 49ers here.
I am too.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers 5-2 at the 1-6 New Orleans Saints. Dennis Mike Evans on injured reserve, done for the year. Bucky Irving and Chris Godwin Jr. again out. Emeka Egbuka still not practicing with his injury. Could it be another big Cade Otton game?
Like, I was trying to think of, like, who is it that, like, is there a superhero that shows up in a very specific set of circumstances? Because it seems to be that's what Cade Otton does. Like, hey, we don't have any receivers. And Cade Otton goes, that's okay.
Is he like Liam Neeson in those Taken movies?
I'll catch 14 passes for 89 yards and 3 touchdowns. No worries. All right, the guys are all back. I'll go back to 1 target a game. It's maddening because if Otton is this good, why can't you figure out how to use him when you've got your full complement of offensive weapons? Like, they treat him like a side piece. Yeah. It's like, it's 3 a.m. booty call, Cade Otton. It's why you got to do the man like that. Just, let him meet your family.
It's probably just there's not enough targets to go around when everybody's in there because, usually if Bucky's healthy and they have these receivers, it's just we talked about the embarrassment of riches. But the more pieces you take off the board, the more you kind of narrow it down. Sean Tucker, not nearly the receiving threat that either Irving or Rachaad White is. So that kind of limits your out of the backfield guys. And if Egbuka's playing on one leg and your other options are like the rookie Tez Johnson or 95-year-old Sterling Shepard, Cade Otton, looks a lot better. For the New Orleans Saints, Kendre Miller done for the season. Supposedly they're going to mix in a little Devin Neal. Not a great matchup against the Buccaneers. So how are we feeling about Kamara this week?
He's the guy that's going to get most of the opportunity. I like Devin Neal from a dynasty perspective. And at this point in his career, my expectations for Kamara, especially in what we expected out of this New Orleans offense, he's not that far off from what I thought he would be. He's what I think RB20 or something, RB22. So I figured he'd be kind of a middling RB2. But the offense as a whole isn't scoring a lot of points, so it's hard to find fantasy points for people. And when you look at, say, Devin Neal, he's 5th or 6th on the priority list behind Olave and Shaheed and Kamara and Juwan Johnson. And so I would have to be in a real Hail Mary situation to put Neal in my lineup, even though I expect he's probably going to play 45% of the snaps. I don't expect him to have that sort of touch share. So I like Kamara to continue to be in that mid to low RB2 range.
I am taking the Buccaneers.
So am I.
One of the better games on the schedule, the 3-3-1 Dallas Cowboys at the 5-2 Denver Broncos. Dennis, Javonte Williams has been tearing it up, but running back 6 on the season, facing his former team here. You know he'd like to show them something. Not a great matchup, though. So how are you feeling about Javonte?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I think he'll get his 14 to 20 opportunities. Whether or not he is as productive as he's been in some other games, I think remains to be seen. He's going to, pull the Bob Conrad chip on the shoulder, knock this off kind of approach. And he doesn't have any real competition for touches in the backfield. Jadon Blue ain't getting it done. And, anybody else there is even more insignificant than Jadon Blue. But yeah, if Dallas hopes to compete with the Broncos, they're going to have to figure out a way for CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens to beat those cornerbacks. And I don't know if that's really something that's going to happen.
I think that the one that I'm most bullish about is Jake Ferguson, because Denver's linebacking coverage wasn't great before Dre Greenlaw cussed out a referee or hit a referee and got a 1-game suspension. So good job for them. Speaking of the Broncos, Marvin Mims Jr., his best game of the season on Sunday. And in the wake of that, they talked about having him
Dre Greenlaw go Vontae Mack against Wisconsin? Is that what happened?
So I've seen a couple of competing footage. It looks like when the Broncos kicked the field goal to win, the players were rushing the field. One of the officials trying to get out of the pack may have incidentally pushed one of the Broncos players, and Dre Greenlaw went after him. And it looked like he just said something. One of the reports said he made contacts. I didn't see any contact, but it looks like he for sure said something. And they suspended him for, I think what they said is threatening a referee. It didn't look that threatening, but
get out of the way, old man.
On the field, so Marvin Mims
threatened Ed Hockley.
Best game of the season. In the wake of that, they talked about having him run more routes and get more targets. Dallas's defense is not what you would call robust. Does that make you more interested in Mims this week?
So he's a wide receiver 4, and he has some upside because of his speed. Troy Franklin and him both stretch the field really, really well. They use Mims on that end around stuff. So, the opportunity's there. I've got him on a couple teams. I'm probably not trying to force him into my lineup, but he's more of a plug and pray than a plug and play.
I'm taking the Broncos, the first place Broncos.
So am I.
Next up, the 1-6 woeful Tennessee Titans at the 6-1 leading the NFL in record Indianapolis Colts. First for the Titans, what are we doing with Tyjae Spears and Tony Pollard?
The same as I'm doing with the rest of that Titans offense, hoping I got somebody else to start. Now, that being said, if I got to start a person out of that offense, it feels like Tony Pollard is the guy. But, the rest of it, it's whack-a-mole. You start Pollard, Spears is going to get the touchdown. You start Io Manor, and Chimera DK gets 2 touchdowns. You start Juwan Johnson, Gunnar Helm catches 4 passes for 70 yards. It's you got to be fast there. Get that mallet working.
On the other side, facing the Titans defense probably doesn't scare anyone. Michael Pittman Jr. actually all the way up to wide receiver 10 on the season. Josh Downs also was picking it up before he got knocked out last week with a concussion. Are you feeling better about both of those guys at receiver?
I am feeling good about them. And obviously, I'm going to start Pittman if I roster him. Downs is probably more of a flex play. But I think you have to understand starting Colts receivers this week. against Tennessee is that it may not take very long for them to go in. We're just going to run the ball mode because we got Jonathan Taylor and you don't. And we're already up by 21 points. We don't need Daniel Jones throwing it all over the field. This looks like it could set up to be a 20 pass attempt game for Daniel Jones.
I am taking the Colts.
So am I.
Sunday Night Football, intriguing matchup. The 4-1-1 Green Bay Packers at the 4-2 Pittsburgh Steelers. Dennis, preseason, a lot of people touted Jordan Love as a sneaky NFL MVP candidate. I don't think we've seen that kind of a great performance, but facing his old quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, potentially getting Christian Watson back this week. How are you feeling about Jordan Love?
I mean, he's QB 16 on the year. He's a QB 2, which is kind of where we have valued him. They've got a good ground game with Josh Jacobs, and often, even when Jacobs isn't being super efficient, he'll often grab a touchdown or two in the running game. I like the prospect of getting Christian Watson back. I think he does some stuff that the rest of the receivers on that team don't do. Some of them can run fast like Watson. They're just not 6'4" like Watson. But I also have watched Christian Watson enough to know that, he could very well have 3 wide open 60-yard targets and catch none of them.
Speaking of facing a former team, that would be Aaron Rodgers this week. He never misses an opportunity to try and get one over on them. What are you expecting from him?
Well, he's QB 15. He's coming off his highest passing yard game of the season, and that was 249 yards. Like, he hasn't been lighting it up. The Packers, they're 11th in the league in sacks and 6th in quarterback hits, but the Steelers have only given up 9 sacks, the fewest, third fewest in the league. And some of that is Rodgers is I'm 41 years old or 40 years old, whatever it is. He goes, I don't want to get hit. So he gets rid of the ball if he thinks if he can feel and see the pressure. He's not holding the ball and doing a whole lot of Caleb Williams. I think I can make a play. But yeah, he's probably the most vengeful, spiteful quarterback in the NFL. He wants to put up 50 against the Packers.
And I think he might. I'm going to take the Steelers.
I'm taking the Steelers too.
Monday Night Football, the 3-4 Washington Commanders at the 5-2 Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs offense has been rolling. The Commanders now, Jaden Daniels has been ruled out. Still not looking that good for Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuels. They said Deebo Samuel is trending in the right direction, and that Terry McLaurin is on track to possibly practice this week. Can Marcus Mariota and the Commanders keep up with the Chiefs?
Probably not. It's Mariota, his last couple of years in Tennessee, tore up his shoulder. He was never a super accurate quarterback, and it's taken away some of his arm strength, and he's still not super accurate. Getting rid of their best running back has not paid off. If they can, if they hope to do anything against the Chiefs, they've got to figure out how to make the running game work so they can try to gain a time of possession edge. And even then, the Chiefs, they're kings of the 3-play, 70-yard touchdown drive. It isn't like they're not explosive. They're super explosive. And so, I don't know, with Deebo and McLaurin they might get healthier quicker if Jaden Daniels was healthy. But, yeah, I'm not expecting a whole lot of points out of this Washington offense.
Meanwhile, for the Chiefs, the passing game's going real well, but how about the ground game? How are you feeling about Isaiah Pacheco? He's running back 36 through 7 weeks. Has been a little better the last few weeks, but, how do you feel about him if he's one of your lineup options?
He's a flex play. is where I have him, and his RB36 status shows that. Getting Rashee Rice back and having a healthy Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown and Travis Kelce, will it open up, ease up the defense on the run game a little bit? Maybe, but there's no incentive to run the ball with Isaiah Pacheco when you've got that passing game. And then Brashard Smith had 14 carries last week. Now, I do think it's plausible that was a function of them blowing out the Raiders. But it seems like unless Isaiah Pacheco gets a touchdown, he's not going to sniff double-digit fantasy points.
Yeah, that's what I think. He's a little touchdown dependent. I am taking the Chiefs in this one.
So am I.
Well, that'll do it for the Week 8 preview. As I mentioned, not the most spectacular schedule. You have a couple of extra days before we're back again because we went earlier this week. So, Dennis, what can the people do?
Man, it's amazing when I don't have that extra day to prepare my talking points. The show gets short.
Well, also, there's not a lot of talking points about some of these teams are horrendous.
They can go over to your favorite podcast platform, hit that search button, type in the Fantasy Football Roundtable podcast, give us a subscribe, give us a like, leave us a rating and review.
We'll be back on Tuesday to talk about these games. I hope there's some diamonds in the rough. Otherwise, it might just be a rough episode. So we will see you then. Till then, have a wonderful weekend.